back with a new episode. I was trying to heal the battery in this motherfucker. Alright, so everybody knows who this is. No need for me to introduce myself unless you're just personally tuning in to me for the first time ever. If that's the case, my name's... Bounce on the devil, put the pedal to the floor. Shit. Jay-Z, my man. Anyways, yeah, I like rap. What are you gonna do? I actually did exactly what that song's talking about. I ran from cops more than once. Got away from them more than once. But in the end, they got me. So, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. Okay. Shut this shit off. Yeah, my name is Coil LeBlanc. I'm the ceremonial witch. If you just tuned in, you should really go check out my older shit, so you're gonna be lost. Today I'm gonna be talking about how you're fucking God. How we're all God. I'm gonna be talking about awakening. How you know if you're awakened. Not in the typical way. 10 signs that you're going through an awakening and all that kind of shit. I'm not doing that shit. I don't think I'll ever do that shit. But I'm going to be doing that shit in my...
fucking pants.
Shit, I'm not doing that shit. I don't think I'll ever do that shit. But I'm going to be doing that shit in my ADD kind of way of explaining it. Let's just start off with a bang here. One of the ways you know you're God, one of the ways you know you're going through awakening is if you're starting to wrestle with the idea that there isn't a God, that there isn't a devil, that somehow that you can't comprehend, but in some way, shape, or form, we are all either gods, goddesses, or we all make up the God, or one of these popular ideas that are being shot around spiritual communities. Is that fucking bee? I don't like bees, yo. One of those popular ideas that are being shot around these communities, like that we're gods, goddesses, whatever the case is. For me right now, and I say right now because I'm not fixed on my belief systems. My beliefs can change. And I think it's important to be able to have some wiggle room. My beliefs are always along the same lines, but they're always being able to adapt so that I'm not closed-minded, let's say. I'm going to use my man Alan Watts today to help me out with this. He was a very good philosopher, very down to earth, very grounded man who really understood a lot and really had a good way to articulate. I'd say he's borderline a fucking comedian because he liked to point out the ironic things about philosophy, spiritual awakenings, life in general. But one of the main things when you're awakening and beginning this process, whichever it is, whether you're becoming a witch, a musician, you're just someone who's a new age trying to fucking do law of attraction, you're someone trying to follow the shaman path, maybe watching the Shamanator there, my man T-Wiz, maybe you're like EA wedding kind of guy, maybe you're a birch kind of witch, maybe you're a fucking ceremonial magician like Frater, maybe you're just somebody, you know, like the new age good guys that are like Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, all those dudes, you know, maybe you just like higher self channel and you watch shit like that. Whatever the case is, one of the main ways you know you're starting to go through something is if you're tackling that idea. Now, people tackle that idea all the time and maybe not go through a spiritual awakening. But if you're continuously thinking about that, pondering on that, finding ways to know, because whatever the case may be, whether you were a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, anything, any organized religion, really, whatever one you were, if you're starting to pull away from that because you're starting to realize that it's one of those ideas that aren't going away. It's not a fad. in your thought process. You know what I mean? Like fads are things. Trends are something that stays trendy for a while, you know, and that you can bring up when people, oh yeah, that's cool. Fads are something that came and gone so fast. People are like, whoa, bud, that was so, you know, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 decades ago. But that's one of the main ideas. And what comes along with that is death and reincarnation. The idea of us dying, of what happens when we die. Starting to tinker with that, those kind of ideas, with those beliefs, like what happens when we die. Because I gotta tell you, for me, one of the main reasons people like to believe in God is because they like to believe in heaven. They like to believe that there's no emptiness. Some people don't like the idea of reincarnating. Everything they've done on this earth is just done, over with, and they just restart. A lot of people don't like that. So it's better for them to believe in a God so that heaven is real. So that they think they did good work on this earth and they deserve heaven. But I hate to tell you, but how many video games do you play that when you die, you go through an underworld or go to a heaven? Not so much. See, we have these stories, we have these myths that have archetypal people in it. Archetypal stories. Oh, fucking mosquito. They have archetypal stories, archetypal myths. They have archetypal stories, but they're archetypal figures in it. The underworld and all that. And people have taken these stories literally. But I want to point something out to you is that, you know, we invent things, we make stories about things. So yes, we'll have a movie, we'll have books that play the underground, you know, show the underworld and shit like that. For sure. But one of the things when you start truly becoming awakened, and maybe this is like a next step, something, I don't know, who knows how far it goes up when this thing starts to change, but one of the things that I slowly went from heaven and hell and other dimensions and whatever the case may be, to just realizing that a lot of those mythos and stories with archetypal characters, they're explaining our earth process, not what happens after death. You know, when a character is on his journey, goes down to the underworld and comes back out, that's his journey. That's not you dying and then finishing off your journey in heaven. Because why would you go back to Earth, right? And, you know, people invent video games. What happens in a video game when you die? Well, you respawn. What happens when we die? We respawn. We come back to life. We have no idea. You know, there's good and bad shit. One of the reasons a lot of people don't like the idea of God being bad is because they don't like the idea of God being able to do these evil things. But we are all God. God has given us his power. He has extended into all of us to live out our lives. For him to have fun, for him to not be bored, for him to explore this earth that he created, you know. What's the point of creating all these things if you can't even step on it? You know what I mean? It's like if you make an ant farm or you make this maze for the rats. You know, the rat's gotta go play in it and all that. What do? You put a camera on the rat, you try to trick the rat, you get him to do these little things. Well, if you had the ability to, would you get smaller and go in there and do that? Well, God made himself smaller. And he's doing this rat race with us, through us. So people don't like the idea that we can do bad and that we're... That was weird. That thing just turned on its own. God doesn't like the idea, or people don't like the idea that God can be bad. But they don't understand that we are extensions of God. We are all there is.
What?
There's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no devil. These things are all just created fucking things. So everything I'm saying right now is the ideas.
No, leave him alone.
So you start pondering when you become an awakened, when you start your awakening. say it, enlightened, let's say. And I'm going through this because it's a good introduction to what you're about to hear. But people don't like the idea because the devil was a created construct. There is no devil. The devil is created for a being, for someone to blame bad shit people in authority had. You know what I mean? Which is funny because, you know, Catholic churches kill a lot of people. Maybe not as much as Adolf Hitler, but the numbers are up there. And they don't blame that shit on the devil. Well, they do, but in a different way. They say that the devil is making these witches do things. So by killing the witches, they're killing the devil. You know, it's like, well, isn't killing people the devil's game? And didn't Jesus tell you to love your enemies? So that's kind of fucked up. But anyways, but where I'm trying to get with this is the idea of the devil was created. There is God, but it's not how we can't comprehend the idea of God. So we make up all these archetypes, all these different types of God, all these different versions of God, and they all have relevance. But getting back to the hell and the heaven thing, those archetypal lands, let's say, are not actual places after this. All the stories we created were for us on Earth. They're all expressions of our journey on Earth. Because no one has made it to heaven and back to talk about it yet. No one's made it to hell and back to talk about it yet. That's why in our video games, if they do, I don't know. I haven't played video games in a while. But I've never played a video game unless the whole thing was staged in hell. You know, like a Diablo or something, which is not even the case. That was really staged in hell. I don't even know where that was staged, to be honest. I played Diablo when it was just for PlayStation 1 way back when. I don't even remember what the fuck it was about. But point is, unless it's something like that, I mean, you know, descend into the underworld and then make your way to Earth and make your way to heaven. You know what I mean? And no one's explaining those stories because no one's been through it yet. And nor will we be. Well, what's the one thing we do is we respawn. You get so many tries, you keep coming back. What's the video game about? You keep trying until you succeed. What's life about? You keep trying until you succeed. You know, it's not by mistake that these things happen the way they do. You know. But anyways, these are just two of the things that these are the very most basic, easy ways. It's one of the things everybody likes to talk about. When people start talking about how do you know you're awakening, they like to bring up things that make people feel good. The feel-good ideas. Like, things get wonky around lights. You're having weird dreams, maybe sleep paralysis. Maybe you had an addiction to drugs, and that got me hooked. Ooh, I'm accepted. Normally my addiction to drugs makes me an outcast, but this is something accepting me, you know? They play on these emotions that make people feel good. And, you know, as much as some of them may be true, it's not always nice to do shit like that. I'm just trying to be real. Whenever you start going through this, you're going to start questioning the true nature of God. You're going to question the true nature of the devil, if such a being exists, which until I tell you it doesn't. Because, anyways, I'll get into that after. But for now, this will be my introduction. I'm going to play some Alan Watts right now. And then after this little clip, I'm going to come in and chime on what he said, bring it back to what I'm trying to talk about. And as he progresses in this lecture, I'll keep breaking them off probably with the 10-minute mark, and I'll talk for about 5-10 minutes myself. And we're going to proceed like that for now. And I already have some stuff recorded, stuff I added on my podcast that wasn't on my video, which relates to this, but we'll see if I put that in there or not. It depends how long I fucking blabber on for. But anyways, so yeah, my man Alan Watts. Respect. Much respect to Alan Watts.
Ask yourself this. For what reason would a person be considered hopelessly insane? What sort of claims must a person simply not make? Well, there is one, and that is if anybody claims that he is God. That simply isn't done. Certainly not in our culture, although it's very frequent in India. But in our culture, that is simply not allowed because we, most of us, from a Christian background, and if not that, from a Jewish background, and there's a great deal in common. Because both Christians and Jews are deeply concerned about somebody called Jesus Christ. Both Christians and Jews are, in a way, followers of Jesus Christ in different ways. He is a problem to both. Because he was the man who came out and discovered he was God. And that simply is impermissible. The Jews handled it in one way. The Christians handled it quite as effectively in another way. The Christians handled Jesus perfectly, even more tactfully than the Jews, by putting him on a pedestal and saying this was the only man who ever was God, and nobody else was really so before, and certainly nobody can be so afterwards. Stop right there. Put him on the altar, bow down to him, worship him, so that everything he had to say will be null and void.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Fucking Alan Watts says the things that people kind of want to think. That's one of the ideas that, like, I think that's true. And I know people like Thunder Wizard and whoever else might say that's coming from a need to protect Jesus and wanting to protect his name and, you know, Jesus loves you and programming and all that, but it's not really the case. Because I know there's a lot of dumb shit Jesus said. I know Jesus is a mythical character. I know he's not fucking real. So why the fuck would I want to protect a mythical character? I don't. I want people... I don't care if his name is Jesus, Jesus, Corey, fucking Jason, fucking Zeus, Peter, doesn't matter, Paul, Matthew, Mark, whoever the fuck. It could be Mary, it could be Mary Magdalene, doesn't matter. But that story matters. And that story has been played out a few times, it's been changed, it's been altered, it's been done different names, different times, different cultures. But that story lasts. It's an archetypal story. And that's the important part that people need to understand. You can say, fuck Jesus, he never existed, fuck this, fuck that, but the story's still going to have some ringing truth to you. And there's a reason I want to watch that shit every Easter, even though I don't fucking believe in that shit. Like, it's fucked. But what my man Alan Watts is saying here is, well, first of all, the Jews, okay, whether he's talking about Judaism at the time, like I talked about in the story, the high priest, the Jews, they dealt with Jesus by sending him to Pontius Pilate and having him killed. He either means that, or, more specifically, that Judaism doesn't accept Jesus as the Son of God, but they say he's a prophet. So even though Jesus says he's the Son of God, they say, no, Jesus wasn't the Son of God. He was just confused. The Son of God hasn't come yet. He only comes once. And that's at the end of the world. That's what's in the Jewish doctrine. Okay, that's how it works. He only comes once. But Jesus was a prophet. He just didn't know the line between prophet and actual God. But he thought he was a God. And it turns out he was just a prophet. So that's how the Jews dealt with it. Which just gives him some validity. But you can't trust a crazy person that much. And the Christians dealt with it by, okay, he was the Son of God, we need to worship him, but now the next time the Son of God comes is at the end of the world, so no one else can be the Son of God. But what did Jesus tell us? Well, he said he was the Son of God, but we were all sons of God. And we can all enter the kingdom of heaven, and we can all do what he does. That was one of his messages. What did I just say when I started this fucking thing? That we're all part of God. What does Jesus say? Well, if we're all the son of the God, well, your father. If you're a son or a daughter, you're a part of your father's part of you. You have the same blood, the same family line. So if we're all the sons of God, that means we're all part of God. Therefore, I'm saying the same fucking thing Jesus is saying. You know, and I'm not trying to do it in a Christian way. I'm not trying to promote that religion or nothing. I'm just simply saying that we are all part of God. And we're capable of both bad and good. You don't get to be, you don't get to only be part of God if you're good. Those assholes, like those drug addicts, those murderers, those thieves, those Nazis that killed people in the past, they were all parts of God. And that's something you need to get in your head. And when you start wrestling with that idea, that's another idea that means you're starting to wake up. You're starting to realize that there's more going on here. Another idea that helps you wake up is when you realize that if you start playing, how do you put that? The whole Hindu idea that we're all playing a part, and our parts are necessary. That we're all God playing a role, and all our roles are necessary. Like the murderer's role is the same as the healer's role, or the nurse or the doctor who heals people with a gunshot wound. It's all this big drama. And this is where the whole idea of respawning comes in. It's like, yeah, these things are pretty evil and heinous. But the thing is, you don't actually feel it, because once you die, you just come back and you're none the wiser. Now, just because this might be a game or a show or whatever, an alternate reality or, a computer program, whatever they're saying in fucking physics now, doesn't mean that when you have these emotions, hurt feelings, it doesn't feel real. This shit is real. I'm not saying any of this is fake. I'm saying this shit is real. But it's not what we've been led on to believe. Anyways, let's keep going. My man Alan Watts here, and I want to expand on some bigger ideas. I don't want to get stuck on something like that.
And it worked beautifully. But you see, the trouble about deep secrets is they can't be repressed indefinitely. Now, here's the problem, you see, that there are certain processes, some of which are what you might call spiritual exercises. Others are simply chemicals. Others are just horse sense, whereby one comes to see very clearly indeed that black goes with white and self goes with other. And as this becomes clear to you, it's rather shaking. Because, look, if what you define as you is inseparable from everything which you define as not you, just as front is inseparable from back.
All right, it's a new day, but I'm going to keep going. So before you guys forget what the fuck you just said, I'll just keep going. Front and back, black and white. So this is straight up, like he said, whether you take chemicals, which would be like your fucking hallucinogenics, your psychedelics, whatever, psilocybin to DMT to, the acid peyotes, those fucking shits, or you just have this intuitive knowledge, maybe somebody was born with something, or you are actively doing spiritual exercises, and the goal of these exercises, whether or not these exercises are really going to get you there or not, as long as you believe they will, then you will get there. It's just kind of all you really need to unlock that, to be honest. You don't need a fucking guru, pay somebody. But anyways, we'll get to that later. But anyways, when you come into the knowing of black needs white, good needs bad, when you come into knowing that these people, these bad people in society, the criminals define the fucking upscale, the good people, the Illuminatis the Illuminati members need the conspiracy members need the Illuminati members, God needs the devil needs God. When you come into that realization, that's a good awakening step. But I think that's more than just awakening, because you can start your awakening and start realizing some of these other things, but still be very polarized, you know what I mean? Which I think eventually you get to. So I think this is part of depolarization, which I think is part of a balanced form of awakening. Like if you're balanced, you're in the process of awakening, then yeah, you will get that knowledge, 100%. But if you're not doing a balanced form of awakening, and that's just to say that, you know, you're going at your own pace. It's not your fucking fault. You're looking at things as you look at them. And maybe you're still kind of just looking at things that you want to see. So you're finding out truth about certain things, but you're only going in one direction instead of like, okay, I'm going to go to the left, I'm going to go to the right, I'm going to go God, I'm going to go to the devil, I'm going to go all over the fucking map to figure out what the fuck is real. Or maybe you're just doing it in one direction. And one direction can give you a lot of knowledge. You get a lot of fucking, you find all the secrets in that direction. But then there's the opposite direction. And then there's the other directions, you know? So, all that's to say is that I think this part, this one, what he's coming into right there, what he's talking about right there, is depolarization. You start becoming, when you're able to look at your own belief system and shed the ones you don't need, when you're able to challenge your own belief system, when you're able to challenge your own theories, when you're able to, you know, just fucking say, okay, well, this is what I think, but let's go see if I can prove it wrong, you know what I mean? See if I can tear it apart. When you can start doing stuff like that, when you're actively putting your feet on the ground and trying to become depolarized, trying to be less affected or less, I don't know, attached to things, which is part of this. But anyways, I'm kind of jumbling my words. It's still fucking early, man. I had one coffee. I got nothing else.
Alright, what the fuck is up, everybody? So, this is obviously the video recording of my last YouTube video that always goes to Spreaker, but because, like I always say, I like my Spreaker people better than my YouTube people, and I have more of these out there. And that's nothing against anybody on YouTube who watches both. Obviously, if you watch both, then you're a Spreaker person. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then you're still technically a Spreaker person. So, I mean, it's all gravy, baby. But I only got into, like, let's say 4 or 5 main topics of different mind states and things that you ponder. Because, like, the nihilism is as a state is like a depression almost state. Between me and then what Alan Watts said, let's say there's like 7 things that you go through that I had on there. But I mean, why the fuck not go through some more that are important, just as important, maybe not as, you know, as right out there in your face, like I was talking about polarity and fucking the God things and just the reincarnation. You know, those are some of the ideas I've already spoken about, but there's a hell of a lot more than just that. Things that your body goes through, things that happen to you, like those are the things you can get from 10 signs that you're going through a spiritual awakening. So I don't need to really go through that. And I mean, those are pretty general fucking things that can be, you know, used to diagnose someone who's going through, I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. But I'm thinking on my way to work today, and since I haven't completely finished recording the episode yet and changing it to audio format, I'm going to go through some more things that come to my mind that I went through, that you know you're going through a spiritual awakening / becoming enlightened / you know, just having your eyes open. Not all these things necessarily mean that you're going to, when I say awakening or enlightenment, I'm not saying like you're about to manifest something. I'm not saying that you're becoming a different person, that you're getting a light body. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying that you are now not one of the fucking whatever percentage it might be. Let's say 80% of the population. Because I think we got a good chunk. I think we got 15 to 20% of the population now who is becoming aware of these occult ideas and mainstream things that have happened. And I'm not just talking about people that think that there's a mainstream media and QAnon and stuff like that. Like, I'm not just talking about truth and conspiracy. I'm talking about when you come into this awareness and this knowing that we are more than what we've been told. And I don't mean that in like I said, I don't mean that in a conspiracy way. Because the problem with the conspiracy way is, yes, they believe that we have powers and you can cast spells and that there's power in words and we are somehow creating a reality and that information has been kept from us. Yeah, all that's fine and dandy to know, but the problem is these people keep watching conspiracy junk and they never actually start and learn how to do this. They think that it's just for some elite group to fucking manipulate us, and they just keep continuously being manipulated. And they think because they know this that they're somehow protected from it. And it's like, well, yeah, there's some truth to that. The fact that you know you're being manipulated, then you can be protected from it. But you have to know how. And just knowing that people are manipulating you doesn't necessarily make you bulletproof from it. You have to know exactly how they're doing it. You have to know how the mind works. It's like if you know the TV somehow manipulates your mind by, you're seeing all these fucking pictures of families with the house and the children and all that. Well, over time of seeing that over and over again, what happens is you start to associate happiness and a good life and what you ultimately need is those things. It's like women watching romantic comedies where the girl has to get that expensive dress, Prince Charming has to fuck up, but then do a sweet romantic gesture. Well, that becomes programming. I don't know how many women I've been with that I fuck things up pretty bad, and as long as I do a nice romantic gesture, which I totally mean, by the way, and it could be because these things are archetypal, but the point is, I follow these guidelines of these movies, and it works. Not to mention the whole asshole concept, alpha male concept. People say women like assholes and alpha males, and it's like, okay, it's true. Well, is that because they were programmed by movies? That bad boy turns into a friend, slap around, he ends up getting the girl, whereas the good friend who's always been there just stays the friend that she talks to about this new guy with. Is that on purpose? Did that come first? Doesn't matter. It's programming. So you can be in a truth conspiracy movement that tells you that, yeah, we've been fucked around and duped and whatever else the case is, but if you ultimately keep that TV on and let yourself to continue to be programmed by it and think just because you know that you're being programmed that you're somehow safe from it, well, you're not, because you don't know the methods of which are you're being manipulated and fucked with. You have to actually stop those ways. Not only that, then once you know those ways, you can actually counter this shit. You can actually say, no, I'm done. I'm not going to fucking allow this to continue to happen to my mind, to my being, to me. I'm going to fucking stop it right now. I'm going to use the same methods that they found out. I mean, if you know and believe that these people are doing this shit, shouldn't you responsibly go and figure out if it's true or not? Look on both sides of the coin and see how they might be doing it, why their motives might be, do a little digging. But to just take some conspiracy person's word for it and then not really dig any further, that's just not doing yourself any fucking justice. You're worth finding out this shit. Not to mention, it's important to find out. But anyways, so that's all I meant by I'm talking about truth people. And I was in that stage too, so there's none but love for anybody who's beginning their path and they're looking into conspiracy stuff because maybe they're not ready for the magic stuff yet. That's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying you have to stop looking at conspiracy stuff. No, that's part of your fucking shit. It's not going to serve you in the long run if you're going to continue to do it. But if you're just starting it, no, you're okay. You're doing good. You're on the right path. That's definitely something that is, I wouldn't say just because you're looking at conspiracy stuff that you are awakened, but you're definitely on your way to start becoming awakened. There's something that happens to us whenever we start looking at conspiracies. It starts breaking down our previous programming, let's say. So it's definitely part of the process. It's not necessarily, because I know many people, and I made an episode about one who used to be a friend, but these people are still watching conspiracy stuff 5 years later, 4 years later, 3 years later, continuously stuck on it, looking for the newest conspiracy, just getting dopamine kicks by their brain, by these negative fucking emotions that they're feeling when they just keep reinforcing that the government's fucking them, that their life is fucked because of somebody else and not because of their own shit. It's like, everybody has these same limitations put on them, yet some people succeed and some people don't. So how can you legitimately sit there and blame outside forces when everybody else has the outside forces, yet other people are thriving and you're not? You just have bad luck. Well, we make our own fucking luck. That's something else that comes along with this. But yeah, so if you're one of those people that have been watching conspiracy stuff for like years and haven't gotten into any kind of, it doesn't have to be magic per se, because maybe you are still programmed that magic is of the devil. Well, I'm not against that. If you've been programmed that, then that's that. I didn't really have that programming. Like I said, my grandmother was a Christian witch. She was Christian, but she had abilities, and we all called her a seventh sister of a seventh sister, so it followed that folktale shit. So she was a witch, let's just say that. But she was a devout Christian, had a picture of Jesus on every fucking wall of the house, and to the point where Jesus would fall if something was going on. I've already said that before. That same picture would fucking fall if someone was in trouble, if something bad was happening, blah blah blah. So Jesus was helping her out more, so to speak. But it's not necessarily Jesus the character, it's the fact that she put importance in that picture. She made that picture holy, Anyways. So, yeah, if anybody out there is still on the path of, I'm still a Christian, but I'm going to start looking into stuff, then that's perfect. That's how I started, There's nothing wrong with that. That's another sign that you are starting this. And you have to do it at your own pace. You have to do it correctly. You have to do it slowly but surely, baby steps. And so you don't blow your fucking brain out. Because you will blow your fucking brain out if you come into this stuff too fast. Because the mind's very fragile when you're going through conspiracy stuff. And it's often said, and I learned this from Prater, that when you break down belief systems, when you remove programming, well, if you're removing something like a belief system such as your religious belief systems that have been carved in you and crafted into you since you were a child, since you were in, let's say, pre-K, you started going to school like I did, and every morning you did an Our Father or a Hail Mary, and then you went to church once a month just with your school, and sometimes with your own family, definitely on the holidays, sometimes more than that. You went through all the sacraments. Well, this is something that's been crafted in you from age 4 to fucking whatever age you are now, whether it's your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, doesn't matter. So any belief system built around the Christian belief system, if you remove that belief system, those other things that are built upon that come crashing down. Conspiracy stuff that challenges your programming starts, if you watch it too many days in a row, the same stuff, it can start breaking down these belief systems. That's why by watching something that tells you, that shows you points, that gets you to be like, hey, that makes sense. So, like, for example, the video, the Not So Great debate by Prater Xavier, is one of the things I use to break my Christian belief systems or alter them to the point where I can still believe in the book, I can still believe in the stories, that they have significance, but I know the characters are mythical. That's the programming that I was attempting to put into my mind at that time. And I think I did a pretty good job, because I'm not offended when anybody breaks down the Bible and starts making fun of it and saying it's not true, because that's what I believe. I'm also not offended if somebody... Anyways, it doesn't matter. On both sides, I'm okay. But by watching that every day for 3 fucking months, over and over again, my wife thought I was fucking wackadoo. I mean, she still might think I'm wackadoo a bit, but she accepts it now. But at that time, she wasn't quite accepting of it. And because, anyways, it doesn't matter what she thought. I'm glad she now accepts it. But So I lost my train of thought there. I'm trying to pass cars and look for cops while I'm recording. But by listening after 3 months, it literally was like my conscious, like the conscious in the sitcoms that you have, a little devil and a little angel on your shoulder. It was like this internal polarity battle that I was having between magic. But by listening to that, putting it on while I was doing stuff, it was my subconscious that would be like, hey, no, we can't do this, it's of the devil. Well, then Freud would come on and say, no, it's not really of the devil. This, by listening to the people that don't allow you they tell you to do nothing, just let yourself go and be subject to God's will. Well, when you do that, nothing happens because they want to have all the power. They don't want you to use this stuff because then you'll change your life around. Well, that made sense to me, to the point where it was like, okay, no, everything Freud was saying makes perfect sense, and Michael just kind of looks like a jackass, even though what he's talking about is exactly what I believed in. So it was able to reprogram my mind. But along with that, when you start breaking down these belief systems, other things come down with it. And these videos are able to do that. These videos can bring on nihilistic fucking feelings. You're like, what's the point? The Illuminati and the fucking Roth fucking Childs and the Blumenbergs or whatever the fuck they're called, and the Freemasons, and all these fuckers are ruling the world. They're just trashing, and they don't give a fuck about us, and they're holding all this shit against us, and they've got such a big head start. Even if we figured this shit out, there's no way we'd be able to counter them. And so, like, what the fuck's the point of even trying? It's like, well, the point is that you can do exactly what they're doing if they even exist. And I'm not convinced that. Anyway, this doesn't matter. And shed the ones you don't need. When you're able to challenge your own belief system, when you're able to challenge your own theories, when you're able to, just fucking say, okay, well, this is what I think, but let's go see if I can prove it wrong. You know what I mean? See if I can tear it apart. When you can start doing stuff like that, when you're actively putting your feet on the ground and trying to become depolarized, trying to be less affected or less, attached to things, which is part of this. But anyways, I'm kind of jumbling my words. It's still fucking early, man. I've had one coffee. I've got nothing on me to make coffee or work out or anything like that. So I'm either gonna have to suck it up and go all day without any more coffee, or suck it up and go paper one at Tintage, or go to like a fucking energy drink and shit like that. So we'll see how the fucking cookie crumbles today. But let's get back to Alan, so I can get on something a little bit better. But depolarization and all the ideas that surround depolarization are very important when it comes to the awakening process. Now, when you start awakening, you're not going to be depolarized. It's something you actively have to do on your own. But most of the steps I'm talking about are things that are going to come into knowing if you start down this path, you set the intention, you want to become awakened, and blah, 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 blah. And this is what's going to happen. Whereas depolarization is a little different. I think you have to actively go for it. And I think there's some people that get led to it, and it just kind of happens through synchronicity. But I think the majority is something you have to actively do. That's just my opinion, though. I could be absolutely, positively wrong about that.
Then you realize that deep down between self and other, there is some sort of conspiracy. If these things always occur in combination and look very different from each other and feel quite different, nevertheless, the feeling of difference between them allows each one to exist. And so underneath the opposition or the polarity between self and other, or between any other pair of opposites you can think of, there is something in common, as there is, for example, between figure and background. You can't see a figure without a background. You can't have an organism without an environment. Equally, you can't have a background without a figure, or an environment without organisms in it, or without things in it. You can't have space, which is unoccupied by any solid. You cannot have solids not occupying some space. This is absolutely elementary, and yet we don't realize it. Because, for example, the average person thinks that space is nothing. That it's just a sort of not-there-ness in which there are things. And we are slightly afraid that not-there-ness, that nothingness, that darkness, that the negative poles of all these oppositions will win. That they will eventually swallow up every kind of being and every kind of there-ness. But when you catch on to the game, you realize that that won't happen. Because what is called not existing is quite incapable of being there without the contrast of something called existing. It's like the crest and the trough of a wave. You can't have a wave that is all trough and no crest, just as you can't have a wave which is all crest and no trough. Such a thing has never been manifested in the physical universe. They go together. And that is the secret. There really is no other secret than that. But it is thoroughly repressed. And therefore, we are all educated to feel that we've got to fight for the white because the black might win. We've got to survive. You must survive. That's the great thing we're all working under. And pounding it out day after day in anxiety. Because this is a description of anxiety. Anxiety is the fear that one of a pair of opposites might cancel the other. Forever.
All right, so this part...
get the ones you don't need, when you're able to tell isn't necessarily an awakening sign, or something that you come into knowledge about. I just really need to point out how cool it was how he said that. So we're all programmed. So that's the awakening sign, though. When you realize everybody gets programmed, and not even necessarily on purpose. Like at first you're gonna think it's on purpose. At first you're gonna think people did it to you, and you're gonna have to let that go. You have to let that go and take responsibility. That's a sign of awakening. Now, so is the first part, though. Like it comes in order like that. So you become awakened. You're starting your awakening, but by realizing that we're programmed. And at first you think people are doing it on purpose, hypnotizing us, whatever, for consumerism, for whatever the case is. And there certainly is some truth to that. 100%. Now, they may not be doing it necessarily on purpose, or they may. We don't know that yet. The jury's out on that. Because if they are doing it on purpose, they're hiding it very well. I mean, it's right out for everybody to see because we have all the knowledge and information that tells us how the processes happen. They're not changing it. So we have that as evidence, but nonetheless. But at first it's going to be, okay, they're doing it to us, this is what the fuck's happening. And then from there, there's something that's going to shift within you that you're going to realize, like, okay, maybe they are hypnotizing me. Maybe I have the fucking choice whether to watch that fucking box they call it TV. Maybe I have a choice whether to buy the shit in the store. It's like this whole vaccine business. Okay, everybody wants the vaccine, everybody doesn't want the vaccine. Who the fuck knows, who the fuck cares? I'm not here to lend an opinion on either side. The point is, everybody's saying, okay, they're forcing us to take the vaccine, which they're not. They're not going to force you to take the vaccine. What they are going to do is stop you from being able to do anything for fun unless you take the vaccine. So all these fun services, Ticketmaster, going somewhere overseas, maybe even your job if you work inside an office, if you want to go back to work, you need the vaccine, which isn't necessarily fun. The money you make, you can pay your bills and have fun with. And if the government says, okay, well, everybody can go back to work, you just need the vaccine. Well, I don't want the vaccine. Well, then you'll have to go on welfare because we're no longer paying you. That kind of thing might happen, okay? So it's not necessarily forcing you, but in a manner of speaking, it kind of is. I get the point, right? But you have the choice to say, fuck you, I'm going to go on welfare, or I'm not going to fucking take this vaccine. It's against my beliefs. It's against everything I fucking stand for, blah, 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 blah. Which you might want to look into that, though, just so you know, because from what I know, from what I looked into, there's a lot of good things in a few of these vaccines that could really help you with a lot of different diseases. Potentially make you live longer, last longer, not microchips and shit like that. But I don't know. I'm still doing research on it because I don't even know if I want to take it yet. I'm not going to not take it, and I'm not going to take it. I'm going to do research until I'm either convinced one way or another. That's the smartest thing I can do, I think. But anyways, I'm not going to take anybody's word for anything. I mean, I've already talked to 3 nurses when I went to places. I was at Costco last weekend. I signed up for it, just so, you know, what it turns out. But I signed up for it so that when I get there, I can ask some questions, and then I just might bail and cancel. But I picked their brain. I'm like, what do you know about this? How does it work? And anybody fucking weird things after, blah, 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 blah. Are they telling you to say this? No shit like that. She thought that was a weird one. But anyways. But I don't even know where I was going with all of that. Took the vaccine as an example, and I got lost in it. Oh, okay, yeah, so the programming thing. People think they're programming us just like people think they're forcing us to take the vaccine. It's a choice. Once you realize this, okay, this is where the personal responsibility part comes in, which is a sign of awakening. But it's like a second or third sign. It's like, it's down the road. So first you have to, before you can realize that it's your responsibility and you have the power to change reality, you first have to realize, okay, we make a reality, but that knowledge has been suppressed from us, which is true. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, are they doing it on purpose or is it an accident? Well, probably both. Okay, well, do I stay a victim and blame them? Or now that I know I can make my own reality, do I stop now, I can blame it on them. Well, that's really not going to serve me anyways, but I could get away with it, and it'd be justified, sure. But it's really not going to serve me. But whatever, let's say you go with that. Then say, okay, but at this point on now, I know how the process works. I know how to program my own fucking mind. I know how to do magic. I know how to get symbols in my fucking mind. I know how they're doing it to me. If you're going to sit in front of that fucking TV and keep watching this shit, well, whose fucking fault is that? You're going to blame Illuminati for fucking owning all the TV channels and you can't even watch a single TV show without being programmed by the Illuminati, yet every one of those shows have always been programmed by the Illuminati. It's not like they never didn't own it, you know what I mean? I mean, that's just, I don't believe in Illuminati. I'm just saying that line of thinking is just flawed from the get-go. And when I say I don't believe in Illuminati, it's the way people talk about it. I like people thinking the Illuminati are this fucking group of fucking badass magicians that are fucking with the world and bringing it down and dark demonic forces. I don't care if people think that. I take that energy and I use it to fuel my fucking magic. And I associate as one of those members. And I fucking suck as much energy out of that fucking thought form of Illuminati that I can. But, you know, energy's just energy. You learn how to transform it, it don't fucking matter. It's all gravy, baby. And I love me some gravy. Gravy on everything if I could. I put on my wife's pussy and eat it. Oh, shit. Feeling good, boys and girls. Oh, my little witchlets. And magicians and magical practitioners and wonderful new age pastors and all you fucking lovely people that decided to tune in today. Thank you. But anyways, so the whole programming thing, it happens in steps. You have to first think your programs and blame people, and then you have to let that shit go, but come to your own realization. So if you're still in the first step, don't think I'm dissing you, because I'm not. I was there, baby. I have proof and episodes about me talking about the Catholic Church, different Illuminatis, different groups, saying that they're doing it to us. And now here I am, a couple years later, saying the exact opposite. I'm a walking fucking contradiction if you look at my playlist. If you look at all my videos. Why? It's because you come into this knowledge. And there's a process to it. And as much as I don't like the clear-cut fucking 10 signs of awakening, I mean, I listen to all those types of videos. I know what some of them are. I know some of them have some validity to them, so. Anyways. Alright, fucking heavy as shit, man. Wow. You hate that. Wake up in the morning thinking you just had a good night's sleep, yet your eyes are closing on the fucking highway already, but it's brutal. Anyways, but that's what he's talking about. Black needs white, front needs back, male needs female. Two females, they need each other if that's what they like. Two males, if that's what they like. Whatever other genders, blah, 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 blah. But our opposites attract shit is a real fucking shit.
10 kilometers. Take exit 96 onto County Road 41 toward Marionville.
But I truly think it comes to depolarization. Is all I'm trying to say. No, I think I already said that, so I don't even know what I'm trying to say now. But I'm trying to say something. Who the fuck knows what it is? But the whole black and white thing, I like how you put that. Anyways, let's go back. Let's see what he says.
And if by any chance, by any means, you find out that that is not so, you have an entirely new attitude to what human beings are doing, which may be very creative, but which also may be very dangerous. You see through the game called white must win, because you know that neither black nor white are going to win, because they belong to each other.
I know it's just fast, but it's because I forgot the main point. That was polarization, which has something to do with it, but it was the black and white thing. The reason I got on the programming is because he says in there speaking that we were taught since we were a kid that we have to fight for the white, and the black has to go down. But the truth of the matter is that they're both fucking needed. We need both black and white to survive. We need both black and white for our fucking
turning. I mean, one's inseparable without the other. Can't have one without the other. So, anyways, the reason I got into programming was because, you know, I said that wasn't a true symptom or a way you know you're becoming awakening or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. But then I broke it down and said, well, no, because I guess it's talking about programming, and programming is blah, 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 blah. Anyways, let's get back to it, okay? And I don't like cutting them off. I'll let this one go for a while unless there's something I really need to say.
So one of the problems of the various chemicals which can change the human mind in certain ways so that it becomes apparent that inside and outside go together is that they do rather give the show away. And people who take these chemicals and see through the human game cannot be trusted. They may decide to be good sports and go back into the game and play it as if it were for real. Or they may not. And if they don't, what's going to happen? You see, what is, let me speak specifically for a moment. I said the subject of this is LSD. LSD is one such chemical that does produce this curious effect of making you aware of the polarity of things. It does lots of other things. It does lots of rather unessential and trivial things. And these, of course, in all the publicity in the various national magazines about LSD get thoroughly emphasized. In other words, when somebody says something's real psychedelic, they mean bizarre. And when the national magazines try to illustrate the effect of these chemicals with various photographs, they come on with blurred photographs of all sorts of things higgledy-piggledy messed together. Naked girls seen through prisms. Well, that's absolutely nothing to do with it. If you wanted some sort of appropriate illustration for a Life magazine article on the effects of LSD, you would have one very simple solution. You would publish the most gorgeous color reproductions of Persian miniatures and of Moorish arabesques and of the illuminations of Celtic manuscripts. That would give you the story, so far as changes in human sensation are concerned. But there would be one thing very difficult to put across in pictures, because the people who looked at them, if they didn't get the point of view, wouldn't see it. And that is what I will call the sensation, as well as the intellectual understanding of polarity. That is to say, that the inside and the outside, the subjective and the objective, the self and the other, go together. In other words, there is a harmony, an unbreakable harmony. When I'm using the word harmony, I don't necessarily mean something sweet. I mean absolute concordant relationship between what goes on inside your skin and what goes on outside your skin. It isn't that what goes on outside is so powerful that it pushes around and controls what goes on inside. Equally so, it isn't that what goes on inside is so strong that it often succeeds in pushing around what goes on outside. It is very simply that the two processes, the two behaviors, are one. What you do is what the universe does. And what the universe does is also what you do. Not you in the sense of your superficial ego, which is a very small, little tiny area of your conscious sensitivity, but you in the sense of your total psychophysical organism, conscious as well as unconscious. This is not something that arrived in the world from somewhere else altogether, that confronts an alien reality. What you are is the universe In fact, the works, what there is, and always has been, and always will be forever and ever, performing an act called John Doe. And this is such a subversion of common sense. But is, in fact, matter of fact, something, if you stop to think about it, that is completely obvious. Only everything conspires to prevent you from seeing that obvious thing. Because when you were babies, practically, all your parents and your teachers and your aunts and uncles and your older brothers and sisters got together and they told you who you were. They defined you as Johnny, who is just Johnny. And don't you come on too strong, Johnny, because, no, you've got elders and betters around here. But you're responsible. You're a free agent. You'd better be. And so, when you are told from childhood that you are expected and commanded to behave in a way that will be acceptable only if you do it voluntarily, you remain permanently mixed up. That, if anything, is permanent brain damage. But that's the idea, you see, because that's the game we're playing. You started it. I didn't. See? That's the game we're playing. We can make all kinds of complexities out of that, and really, in a way, have enormous fun. But once anybody sees through that, well, we're frightened. Once you get this sense of polarity, of your inside being the same process as your outside, and your ego being one and the same process as the whole universe going on, then we are afraid that people may say, well, good equals bad, and we can do anything we like, and we needn't in any way be further subject to the ordinary rules of human conduct, and we can wear what...
All right, this might be a little loud here, my window open, but that's an important part. Realizing that whenever we realize this kind of stuff, that, we can say, well, good equals bad, and bad equals good, and, nothing really matters. There's a type of nihilisticness that comes along with this. It can fuck you up. It can take hold of you, and you can lose yourself in it. It can really do a bunch of damage. That's what he's talking about here. But it's a sign of becoming awakening. It really is. Because when you realize this stuff, it can have that effect. And a lot of people are going to get that. I think everybody is going to get that at some point. I think it's just different degrees. I think sometimes some people get it worse than others. So like for me, for example, I get nihilistic every so often. For me, it's like, I don't know, once every 4 months, let's say, 3 times in a year, I get pretty nihilistic. For various times, anywhere from like a couple weeks, a couple days, to a couple months. Even though it's every 4 months, and that's when it's brutal, like almost 2 months of it. Well, that means like I got 1 more month left until I get nihilistic again. It's not a really big break in between. So, and that's normally in the winter months. But anyways, so if you are becoming nihilistic, well, there is some good news, and the good news is that, you are becoming awakened. The bad news is you're stuck in your nihilistic ways, and you don't see the point of life anymore, and, because these things you realize have, it's like dumb them down almost. You don't know what the fuck's the point, But that's like the complete wrong way to look at things. I think I recorded it. I think it'll be on later. But it says at some point that there's 2 types of people that are awakened. There's the one that realizes, the secrets, becomes awakened, and then he goes and he hides and he never comes back to society. The monk or the guy who likes to hide in the bush or whatever the case is. And there's the other one who becomes awakened and comes back into society. But, he's got something from his journey that we can recognize within him, that he's been somewhere. And he's going to help everybody realize how to get there, and blah, 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 blah. I think that was really cool, and that's one of the things that made me really want to make this episode. Because, anyways, that point's pretty obvious. But, Jesus, I lost my train of thought. Give me a second, it's going. Okay, yeah, but that's the whole wrong way. The nihilistic way is the wrong way to look at it, because if you are that person who comes back into society, well, with a little bit of practice and fine-tuning, you can change your whole life around and become greater. And knowing the things you know can only help this process even faster. So what I'm trying to say is, for me, example, okay, I'm aware of a few things that, most people won't come into in their entire lifetime. Because of these things that I know, I'm able to go to work every day, not feel like a slave. I can go to work, I can come home, I can drink, I can not drink, I can do drugs, I can not do drugs. I could spend a bunch of money, or I could save a bunch of money. I could cash for a bunch of money and receive a bunch of money. I mean, I can break a car and get a new car, and nothing really matters. But in the same sense, it all matters, and it's all part of the game, and it's all fun, and I just shoot myself back into the role, even though I know that it's just silly. You know what I mean? And that's part of the fun. So once you realize that we're all just playing a fucking game here, we're all just doing this, and we're playing this game, and, we're just trying to get by, and who knows why. Well, anyways, I'm going to have to re-listen to this. Fun. So once you realize that we're all just playing a fucking game here, we're all just doing this, and we're playing this game, and, we're just trying to get by, and who knows why. Well, anyways, I'm going to have to re-listen to this, because I think I lost my train of thought too far back. I'm not saying something right. It's fucking with my head. Anyways, let me re-listen to this.
Clothes we like, or no clothes at all. We can have what sexual life we like. We can do anything, and we are going to generally, because the world is being rather oppressive towards us, challenge the whole thing and run amok. And a lot of people are doing just exactly that. So I want to introduce into this whole problem some ancient wisdom. I have really two things to talk about. How cultures, which always did know in some way, or among whom a large number of people always did know this secret, handled it. And then I want to make some observations about how we're trying to handle it.
All right. Lighting's not the greatest, but I'll try to work with it anyways. All right. So the idea in the car is the last thing I was trying to talk about. One of the things I was trying to say was, like I said, he said there's two kinds of practitioners, two kinds of people that become awakened. One hides away, keeps secrets to himself, the other person comes out and shares with them. I consider myself that second type of person who's found it, has found some secret knowledge that's helped him, and now I'm trying to share it and put it forward. Yes, my face is dirty. I finished work. I gotta go shower. But the key to the nihilistic feelings that you have is the same key. It's the same key that unlocked the door that got you to the nihilistic feelings. So the same ideas that make you nihilistic, like, well, there's no God, but we're all part of the Godhead, but, we're going to die and we're just going to reincarnate, so what does it fucking matter? But knowing all this stuff, knowing that you've been programmed, same thing, right? When you know you're programmed and things have happened to you, the reason your life sucks is because your parents had a shitty life and you got programmed by them. And you could be like a fucking victim and just be all pissed off at that, you know. And everybody's got their hard times, man. I'm not trying to shit on anybody because life's tough. I get it. But that same problem, that the reason why you have the shitty life because you've been programmed by your parents. Well, it's the same answer how to get out of that fucking hole. You know how the process works now. It's through repetition, through symbolic fucking shit from what you see, but not consciously see the things that goes in the subconscious while your conscious is busy. You use that same process to get things in your subconscious now to fix the problem. Well, it's the same key to the nihilistic problem. The same reasons that made you nihilistic is the same way you can get out of being nihilistic. Because look, my summer wasn't great. I'm not going to pretend I have more problems than anybody else because everybody's got their problems, especially in the times that we're in now. It's not like this is a really bad time or anything, but it's unnerving, or it's unprecedented what's going on, you know what I mean? No one expected something like this to happen, and everybody in our lifetime has never been through this type of plague or big mass disease kind of thing. You know, everybody, people get cancer, but it wasn't like this. Now this is a virus that's easy that we can give to each other, quote unquote, that can and may kill us, quote unquote. So I'm not trying to say that this is a hard time, because I think we're living in one of the best times ever, to be honest. But my summer wasn't easy. The summer that just happened. Previous to this one, found out me and my wife almost split up. I was very nihilistic at my last job. I was doing rotating shifts. I was having a hard fucking time, you know. I was like, okay, I'm having all this success with magic, but yet I can't get anything concrete. I still don't even know what the fuck my passion is. What the fuck is wrong with me? Why can I make fucking little things fucking manifest, but I can't get my passion to be clear to me? I can't get these spirits I'm talking to give me a straight answer on how to fucking know what my passion is, you know, shit like that. So I became very nihilistic because of those things. And the way out of that was to just keep playing the part, was to realize that, okay, well, there's something I'm missing, there's something I'm not doing right. I took full responsibility for how I was feeling. I didn't blame it on everybody else. I didn't blame it on anybody else. I knew it was something that I wasn't figuring out yet. So I just went harder into it with balance, with my family life. And that was the key. It wasn't more magic. It wasn't more spiritual activities. It wasn't more doing more rituals and shit like that to try to fucking force out my passion. It was doing less of that shit so that I can sorry, someone was texting me. I wasn't more magical practices and more YouTube time and shit like that. It was less of that. It was to become more grounded in my realm, more grounded in my life, be a better father to my kids. Be a better father to my kids, be a better husband to my wife. Yeah, be a better husband to my wife. I thought I said that wrong. I thought I said be a better wife to my husband. And then when I started doing that, then all of a sudden I got this job. And this job's far from what I want to do for my passion, my purpose. It's not exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life, but I know I'm on the path now. So I may not know my passion, my purpose yet, but what I do know is that I'm on the right track now, and I don't know how to explain it other than how my life has been unfolding for me, has been, I can tell I'm on the upswing, I'm on the upward spiral rather than the downward spiral, and for some reason within that, you can feel this sensation within you that means you feel, sorry, someone's texting me at the same time and I keep looking at the messages, but the way everything's going in my life is showing me that everything is going to be okay, and that I'm on the right path, I'm doing everything okay. And then it helped that I had dreams where, you know, angels and family members have told me, just be patient, everything comes with time, you can't do everything too fast, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, everything that's been going on has been proof of my growth and my steps, and it's like, I still know the same things I know when I was nihilistic. I still know the things I just explained about, you know, we're just going to reincarnate. I may not even know my family members in my next life, and, you know, I'm gonna miss them, but they're not gonna miss me, and blah, 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 all that shit that makes you nihilistic. I still know all that, but it doesn't matter, because to be submerged completely in the present moment, okay, right now, and enjoying this life, the materialistic world that everybody wants to shit on and hate on, it's like, no. The point of this, the point of magic, the point of all these things that we teach is to make the materialistic world be good for you, so you can have a good time, so you can enjoy, so you can thrive in this materialistic world. You can do 10% of your daily routine is magic, and then the other 90% of your day is you enjoying the fruits of your labor. And so on that, I'm probably just gonna end the video, because it's gonna go long if I just keep going. So this is probably the last thing I talk about, but I just wanted to make sure I made that clear. The point, I don't think I hit on his point very well that he brought up, but the point I wanted to make was, you know, one of the biggest signs is the nihilistic thing. Yeah, so the overarching thing I was talking about was the last thing was the nihilism. That was a sign of going through an awakening, and it could be a very tough one, which will bring you into another sign of the awakening that, you know, all these sites do talk about, is the dark night of the soul. Your nihilistic phase can bring you into a dark night of the soul. Now, not the same dark night of the soul as going through facing your fears and or doing shadow work, although the shadow work too, I could bring on nihilistic shit too. They kind of all end up getting linked at some point. Sometimes everyone does the shadow work, and you just kind of get pissed off because things aren't working right, and you can't advance, and you feel like you're standing still. So then that brings on the nihilistic feelings, like, what the fuck is the point? Fuck all this shit, you know, shit like that. So, but all these things are signs of, you know, you are going through the awakening process. So if you are having these thoughts, see, I focus more on the thought processes. As you can probably tell, I'm a very in my head kind of guy. I analyze everything. I have a pretty high IQ, but I overanalyze everything, and I overthink everything. So when it comes to this shit, it kind of works to my benefit, because when I overthink about this shit, I can figure it out. Reverse engineer shit, you know, tinker with shit, and in theory come up with my own theories, and then put them into practice to see if they work. So it kind of works out for me finally once in my life. Otherwise, this has been more of a curse than a blessing, you know. And, you know, like everything else, in time, things are revealed to you why it's important to have this. And, you know, I don't regret ever having this at a certain point in my life that I thought, like, this sucks. I wish I wasn't like this. And I take that back, because I like the way I am. I enjoy who I am. I know I'm weird. I know I'm different, but I accept all that. And I love exactly who I am. And that's another sign of that everything is just going well in your life, you know, when you can have that kind of love and acceptance for yourself. That, you know, whatever you look like, whatever you feel like, whatever you do, you are, you accept it. I'm not perfect. I'm not happy with my life and, you know, waiting for the bad things to happen. Not the case. I'm still going to keep incrementing uphill for where I want to go and where I want to be. So far from perfect, but I am okay with how everything has transpired and how I am in my life, you know, and that's something that also comes with time. But yeah, so I'm not going to restate all the steps and all the different things that I talked about, and there are more states of mind and thought processes rather than like physical symptoms. And that's why, like, they don't have me of this, like, you know, 10 signs you're going through a spiritual awakening. You know, I kind of diss those things, but they do have their merit, because someone who's just getting into this needs to hear something like that. More than that, there are people that want to know about the physical symptoms rather than the spiritual or the mind processes, and, you know, that's where people like me come in. But anyways, that's going to be about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this whole fucking shebang, and yeah.
You require a skill. And it's enormously important, especially for American people, to understand that there is absolutely no possibility of having any pleasure in life at all without skill. Money doesn't buy pleasure. Ever. Look, if you want to get stone drunk and go out and get a bottle of bourbon and down it. You can't do that except for people who have practiced the distiller's art. You can't even make love without art. Where I live in Sausalito, we have a harbor full of ever so many pleasure craft. Motor cruisers, sailing boats, all kinds of things. And they never leave the dock. All that happens with them is their owners have cocktail parties there on Saturdays and Sundays. Because they discovered, having bought these things, that the discipline of sailing is difficult to learn and takes a lot of time. And they didn't have time for it, so they just bought the thing as a status symbol. So, in other words, you can't have pleasure in life without skill. But it isn't an unpleasant task to learn a skill. If the teacher, in the first place, gets you fascinated with it. There is immense pleasure in learning how to do anything skillfully. To make carpentry things, to cook, to write, to calculate, anything you want. It can be immensely pleasurable to learn the discipline. And it is completely indispensable. Because, look, you may be a very inspired musician. I'm not a musical technologist, you see, and I regret it, but I'm a word technologist. But I can hear in my head all kinds of symphonies and all kinds of marvelous compositions, but I don't have the technique to write them down on paper and share them with somebody else. Too bad. Maybe next time around. But you see, so far as words are concerned, I can express ideas because I have studied language. And I have worked very hard. Not that I didn't like it, I intensely enjoy the work of writing a book, although it is difficult. But it's fascinating to say what can never possibly be said. So, you see what's happening. What you have to do, you have inspiration, but then you have to have technique to incarnate, to express your inspiration. That is to say, to bring heaven down to earth. And to express heaven in terms of earth. Of course, they are really one behind the scenes. But there's no way of pointing it out unless you do something skillful. You see, we are all, at the moment, absolutely in the midst of the beatific vision. We are all one with the divine, or some, I don't like that sort of wishy-washy language, but we are all there. But we are so much there that we're like fish in water. They don't know they're in water. Like the birds don't know they're in the air because it's all around them. And in the same way, we don't know what the color of our eyes is. I don't mean whether you've got blue or brown eyes, but the color of the lens of your eye. You call that transparent. No color. See, because you can't see it. But it's basic to being able to see anything. So in order to find out where you are, there has to be some way of drawing attention to it. And that involves skill. Upaya in Sanskrit. Skillful means. So, it's all very well. Anybody can have ecstasy. Anybody, as a matter of fact, can become aware that he is one with the eternal ground of the universe. But since that's what you are anyway, I'm going to ask, so what? When a hero goes on an adventure, and he leaves his people, and is going to a strange land, he can go away and just hide himself round the corner in an obscure house, and then appear a year later and say, I've been on a heroic journey, and tell all sorts of tales. And they say, prove it. Because they expect him to bring back something which nobody has seen before. Then they believe you've been on a journey. So in the same way, exactly, anybody who goes on a spiritual journey must bring something back. Because if you just say, oh man, it was a gas. Anyone can say that. Now this is why in the doctrines of Buddhism, there is a differentiation between two kinds of enlightened beings. They are both forms of Buddha, which is to say the word Buddha means somebody who has awakened, who has discovered the secret behind all this. In other words, all this thing we call life with its frantic concerns is a big act. which you, in your unconscious depth, are deliberately setting up. So you can do one of two things when you discover this. You can become what's called a Pratyeka Buddha. That means a private Buddha who doesn't tell anything. Or you can become a Bodhisattva. A Pratyeka Buddha goes off into his ecstasy and never is seen again. Bodhisattva is one who comes back and appears in the everyday world and plays the game of the everyday world by the rules of the everyday world. But he brings with him upaya. He brings with him some way of showing that he's been on the journey, that he's come back, and he's going to let you in on the secret too. If you'll play it cool and also come back to join in the everyday life of everyday people. Because this is the rule. If the world is dramatic, if the world, as the Hindus say, is a big act put on by the divine self, one of the rules of coming on stage is that you don't come on as yourself. You come on as the part that you're going to play. It's very bad form if an actor always acts the same way. That's what's called a star, as distinct from an actor. A real actor can become anything. And so, but in private life, well, he's just Mr. Jones. But he doesn't come on the stage that way. So in the same way, if you know that behind the scenes, in the depths, fundamentally, you are it, you don't come on that way. It always comes on as something else. That's the rule of the stage. Because without that, there wouldn't be a play. There would only be reality. No illusion. And the whole point of life is illusion. From the word Latin ludere, to play. Showbiz. The show must go on, so don't give it away. But the truth has a way of leaking. It gets out. But then the important thing is, you see, when the truth gets out, those who catch hold of it must find a way of staying in contact with what society calls reality. That is to say, if you have a radio, you don't only need an antenna, you also need a ground. So what happens in the world of mysticism, of psychedelic visions, and so on, needs to be grounded. So then there are always two directions in which such a discipline works. One, preparatory. In other words, those who taught disciplines for awakening in the Orient were always careful to screen, first of all to screen those who applied, and then after screening them, to make them sensible, so that they knew how to handle the game of ordinary human existence and play it by the ordinary human rules. In other words, that they had strength of character and were not the sort of people who would be wiped out because they had no strength of character by an overwhelming experience. Then they let them in. But there are certain disciplines, such as Zen, where you get into the essential secret very early on in the discipline. And after that, they are concerned with much more training in showing you how to use it, how to use the power, to use the vision which you have acquired. And so it is with the current, what we will call LSD scene, that is raging through the United States. It unfortunately lacks discipline. And I'm not trying to say this in a kind of severe, authoritarian, paternalistic way, but only that it would be so much more fun if it had it. In other words, when people try to express what they have seen in this kind of changed state of consciousness, They show 5 movies going on at once, projected upon torn bed sheets, with stroboscopic lights going as fast as possible at the same time, and 11 jazz bands playing. And they're going to blow their minds, baby. And everybody else who hasn't seen this thing look around and say, well, it's a mess. I don't like the looks of it. Let's suppose that while you were very, very high on LSD, you looked into a filthy ashtray and you saw the beatific vision, which is, of course, the case, because wherever you look, if your eyes are open, you will see the face of the divine. Then you come out of your ecstasy with the dirty ashtray and say to everybody, here it is. No, there is a possibility. If you are an extraordinarily skillful painter, let's suppose that while you were very, very high on LSD, you looked into a filthy ashtray and you saw the beatific vision, which is, of course, the case, because wherever you look, if your eyes are open, you will see the face of the divine. Then you come out of your ecstasy with the dirty ashtray and say to everybody, here it is. No, there is a possibility. If you are an extraordinarily skillful painter, or even photographer, of presenting the dirty ashtray so that everybody else will see almost what you saw in it. But you will have to have a technique which will translate every grain of ash into a jewel, because that's what you actually saw. But that requires mastery of an art. And I'm afraid people think that all it's necessary to do is just throw out any old thing, because under that transformed state of consciousness, any old thing is the works. But nobody else can see it if they haven't shared that point of view. So then, this becomes for us in the United States an extremely important social problem. The cat is out of the bag. We are living in a scientific world where secrets cannot be kept. And anyone, anytime, can pick up something which will short-circuit all the ancient religious techniques, yoga practice, meditation, etc., etc. This is all very embarrassing, but it will happen, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And they will see what all those sages and Buddhas and yogis and prophets saw in ancient times. And it will be very clear. So what? So you see, you can say, look at all these people who haven't seen it. This is a temptation. Look at them all going about their business, earning money and grinding it out at the bank or the insurance office or whatever it is every day, and how serious they look all about it, and they don't really know it's a game. And you can cultivate a certain contempt for people.